from the Asian Community Development Council. This is Family in Focus, Mondays at 12 noon on PHLV Radio.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Family in Focus. On this Monday, we're going to be talking health, healthy living. I think a lot of people have been, of course, focused on that with the past year, everybody trying to stay healthy, their family and friends staying healthy. But today we're going to take a little unique approach to looking at healthy living. So we're going to take a holistic approach at it. And we have an expert with us on the show today, and she's an Asian American Pacific Islander, health provider, a doctor, Dr. Eugen Lee Sedera. She's the co-founder and clinic director of the Las Vegas Integrative Medicine right here in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you. And so talk to us a little bit about, how long have you been with this center? Has it been a while? Have you been open for a while here in Las Vegas?
Well, I've been in Las Vegas for the past about 8 years. And this center, we opened up 2017.
So it's just been a few years.
Yeah, it's a few years. But before that, I was practicing kind of part-time at the Summerlin Hospital medical building with the cardiologist, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about this. For people who, we're talking about health, but when it comes to holistic approach to health, what does that mean, holistic, if people are not familiar with this term?
So I think everybody has different definition about that. There's no one definition, but my definition for the holistic health would be not just looking at the symptom or area of the symptom, the specific area of the body. You have to look at the whole body because everything is connected. No parts of the body act on its own, work on its own. So when something is happening in one part of the body, it will definitely have an influence on the rest of the body as well.
Right.
So having that big picture, being able to connect the dots between the different area of the body, different symptoms, is my definition of the holistic health.
That's interesting. And I think that it makes sense, right? I mean, whatever happens your whole body is connected.
Right.
So as a health provider, when people come to you with a health issue, is that how you kind of look and approach how you heal this person? Is just looking at the whole body and not just certain parts of the body?
Right. So looking at certain part of the body is how the conventional medicine works. That's why they have different specialists. And it is important to have the specialist because they are an expert in that specific area of the body. However, it's really difficult to recover or get to the point of wellness without putting it all together and looking at it as a whole picture. And that's what we do. So when I say the whole picture, it also, of course, includes your body and the mind and your spirit, the whole, trinity of your health, pretty much.
So tell me about who comes to you, or who's kind of your target population, people who come to your center to get, is there certain types of things that they're looking for when they come to you as a doctor and as a naturopathic doctor, right? That's your field. Right.
So people often come in after exhausting all the other options. And when I say all the other options, it's typically all the other conventional medical options. They've been sold as specialists and got surgeries or medications, ran out of the options, or they are taking medications, but they're getting side effects. They're not happy about it, and they find themselves not getting any better while the number of the medications increase.
Yeah.
So that's why usually they come to me, they find me online. But there's no limit in a sense that people also come in for the prevention. They've seen their family member suffering with a cancer or whatever that they have seen. So they want to prevent.
So they want to take a more proactive.
Right, proactive. They want to take a proactive care approach so that they won't have to repeat that same thing. Another thing is also the kids really respond very well to the natural approach because it's like that. Kids are like I don't want to put them at the same level as an animal, but in a sense that they don't have a preconception of whatever they're supposed to be doing or done on them. So they don't have that layers or bias about what's being done to them. So they tend to respond very well to the natural treatments too.
So talk to me about some of these natural treatments. When you talk about natural treatments, like is acupuncture, is that one of them?
Yes, acupuncture is natural treatment. We use some homeopathic kind of drainage remedies. We use nutritional supplements. We use herbal formulas as well. But most importantly, what I focus these days is a lifestyle medicine. So it's not just about using the treatment, because you can easily use the treatment for just temporary relief. Of course, I have to say that that's definitely much better than medications.
Right.
And just to make it clear, I'm not saying there's no place for medications or surgery. I definitely want to make it very clear because there's a time and place for them.
Right.
However, for any kind of chronic conditions, I don't believe that they should be the first line of defense. So without addressing your lifestyle issue, just using treatments, whether it's acupuncture or supplements, it's easily can be just still temporary relief.
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of times in my office too, because a lot of people do a lot of research because there's so much information out there, right? So they do their own research, they buy the supplements, and they start taking them here and there. Sometimes it works, but eventually, usually what happens is it stops working or something else is happening too. And that's typically because you're still putting a Band-Aid on the symptom using the natural treatment without addressing the underlying deeper issue.
Yeah. It's just so interesting because I think, given this past year with COVID-19, people wanting to maybe take better charge of their health, and I know ACDC has been great about, working with people, whether, through the COVID-19 vaccination clinic or getting people health insurance, which is great. But I think it's important. And I think you bring up a good point that we need to kind of look at the overall lifestyle, not just certain things, right? And I think what you're trying to do there at your practice is to do that.
Right, exactly. Because typically with any kind of chronic conditions, nothing happened overnight. Even though you might have started feeling the symptom at some point in your life that you can point out, usually it's not where everything starts. The things have been brewing before that, and until it hits the threshold, you are just not feeling it. So you can't, unfortunately, with a natural approach, there's no magic pill or shortcut. You have to work on it. And unless you look deeper into what's really brought you to where you are right now, then you cannot really address the underlying deep issue. And without that, you cannot really build a strong foundation of the health. So it's still going to be just kind of a Band-Aid, even though that's better than the medication.
Right. And, you remind me of, I watched quite a few documentaries when talking about different types of food or plant-based food or things that people are doing after, suffering chronic conditions, and just changing the way they eat can make a big difference. And you've seen that happen, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Just changing diet can help a lot of people, and it's actually one of the major parts. However, there are different aspects of the health that has to be addressed. So, of course, nutrition is very important, but there's no one type of diet that works for every single person. And there's no food that works for every single person either. And I've seen a lot of people who are even sensitive to, for example, turmeric or ginger or kale, the things that you think everybody should benefit from.
Interesting.
So it's important to find what's right for you. And on top of, in addition to that, of course, there are other aspects of your health, stress management, the detoxification, optimizing that. Also, you have to work out the hormone balancing. Those are all very important pieces that has to be included and addressed together in relation to each other. But what I see is a lot of people focus on one thing. They try one thing. Oh, I don't know if it works for me, or I don't know if it's something that I should continue. They feel better, so they stop and they go back to where they were before. When you do that, it can never be a long-term solution. So in order to achieve that long-term solution, because everybody wants to have that health independence, everybody wants to have the quality of life, and everybody wants to and should have a control over their own health. And in order for that, unless you learn how to take care of yourselves at home, you're going to have to be depending on something outside pretty much forever.
Yeah. And, I want to introduce our audience. If you're just joining us here, Dr. Eugen Lee Sedera, she is a naturopathic doctor, an oriental medicine doctor operating right here in Las Vegas. And we're just talking about this holistic approach to healing, to healthy living. And I think right now, more than ever, people are really kind of taking charge of their health. And I think it's really, really interesting to kind of talk about this, especially in the Asian American, Pacific Islander community. I mean, growing up, I'm Thai, growing up in Thailand, that's a big part of just, growing up thinking about healthy living. Yes, we think about going to hospitals, but a lot of it is very holistic. So is it kind of stemming like Oriental medicine? I mean, it starts there. It started there, right?
Right. So the reason I got my master's degree in Oriental medicine much later, actually. I started as a naturopathic doctor and added an Oriental medical degree. And that's because of my upbringing. And also I wanted to be hands-on with the patients too, because the power of touch is also amazing. It's quite powerful.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the traditional, the Oriental medicine has that lifestyle part incorporated into it too. But unfortunately, the way it's practiced right now, typically, especially if you want to try to use just insurance, it's really hard to incorporate that into the way we practice here because the system here is different. And we're trying to squeeze or fit the whole medicine into the system that is not necessarily on the same line with each other. So it makes it very difficult to practice the way it was practiced back 100 or thousands of years ago.
Yeah, the circumstances of our lives are so different
very
now.
different,
Yeah.
right. So it's also put a challenge on the practitioner as well, because we cannot ignore how the current system is.
Yeah.
But we also want to be able to utilize everything that is out there from this medicine as well.
So tell me about like when clients come to you, your patients come to you, is it just kind of a long-term, do they come just for one thing, like acupuncture a few times, or is it kind of a long-term, how does it work when it comes to a holistic provider?
So when people call in, unless some people call in, they know what they want. They want, okay, I just want to do the acupuncture. I've done this before. I've heard of it. I want to try it. I want acupuncture. Then we just do the acupuncture. I have another practitioner in the office too. So Dr. Grace Sims. So we do just the acupuncture, start with the acupuncture, and that's it. And sometimes, however, we do find that they may benefit from naturopathic approach too, because there are different testings that we do, which is not included in the whole acupuncture and Oriental medicine.
Right.
So we might incorporate both. But when people come in, especially with the chronic health issues, then I usually like to start with a naturopathic consult because acupuncture may be incorporated later on, but that's going to be just one of the treatment options. But with the naturopathic consult, because I spend extensive time, like about an hour with each people, it helps me to understand what's going on, where we need to start with, and how kind of a little vague idea of where to go to or which direction to take. There are times, of course, I will have no clue still at the end of 1 hour what to do with this patient.
Yeah.
Because when it's complicated case, it's really hard to know, especially if you've been to all the other doctors already and they have no clue.
Right.
When people come to see me, they sometimes expect that I'm going to have a clue at the end of 1 hour.
Yeah.
That really doesn't happen because there's so much history behind it. So, but that kind of still give me an idea kind of where to at least start.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Do people come to you as kind of a supplement to, like, if they have cancer or if they have, other kinds of diseases that, they're living with? Can holistic medicine kind of go in hand with that?
Yes, of course. Because when people have some kind of reaction to the medication, especially, or treatment, it's because their body is not strong. They don't have a strong foundation.
Right.
So when you build up that strong foundation, you can respond better to the medications or other treatment that you need. So it's never exclusive.
Yeah.
You don't have to choose one or the other necessarily.
Yeah. But is it kind of your goal when you talk to your patients is just like you have to think of your health in a different way than maybe all your life you thought of how to live in a healthy way.
Right. A lot of people come in thinking, okay, I have a healthy lifestyle. I eat right and I do everything right. But when it comes down to it, when we talk about it more, there's always room to improve because they've done their research, but any information that are out there also, what people doesn't realize is that it's very general information. It's not customized for their individual need.
Right.
But everybody is different. Even with the same diagnosis, you're even different from your siblings, right? So, but when it comes, the way the conventional medicine handles this is doctors need to run the test to have a diagnosis. And based on the diagnosis, there's a medication. Without the diagnosis, there's no medication. There's nothing really they can do because that's just how the system works.
Right.
And doctors' hands are often tied within that system because they need to work within that system. But the natural medicine is not like that. In the old saying, they used to say that medicine is like an art. And that's how the natural medicine works. Because depending on the individual, your approach is going to be very different. And you have to be somewhat creative in a way to help the patients.
Yeah. So what is some advice that you have as a naturopathic doctor to give to people right now? They just I just want to make sure I stay healthy. The world's just going crazy. We're just bombarded with so many things, but I just want to live a good, healthy, mentally, physically. What are some of the key advice that you give your patients right now?
So I know especially our AARP population, a lot of them are very open to the natural approach, alternative approach.
Like culturally, we kind of built into that.
Yeah. It is the strong culture. There's a strong cultural background. However, one thing that I want people to remember is that, of course, you can try a lot of different things that you've tried. I mean, in the family, there's something that they've been working for the family for years, and that's all good. At some point, however, because we live in such a different world, right? It's very different from your parents' generation, let alone your grandparents' generation, and a long time ago. It is important to seek the experts' help. A lot of people are not aware that there is an expert out there for that part. But it is important, and it's important not to go either extreme. Even within the AIP population, I do see sometimes people do not believe anything natural. I don't understand how that happened, but they want to go all just medication, surgeries. It's the medical doctor's word against the world.
Yeah.
Or some people go another extreme, energy healer. The problem is, although I do believe in energy medicine, because acupuncture is also energy medicine, but because there's no regulation or licensure, it's very, very difficult to find the good person, the right person to do it.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's also not so qualified people who claim themselves as the healer. You have to be very careful to also go in another direction. So it's a spectrum. And remember, just because you're taking medication, it's not that you cannot do other things. But also you still have to be careful because there's an interaction happening with what you're currently doing. But there is definitely a way, and sometimes it may not take a long time for you to make those changes. But of course, the sooner you start making the changes with the support, with the guidance, because like any field, if you want to succeed in that field, you need a coach, you need a mentor, right? The health goes the same way. Right. So there is a mentor, there is a coach out there that we can help you. And the way I work is also that not just as a doctor, but also as a mentor and a coach, because that's also a very important part. It's not my job is not necessarily just to read the lab and then tell you what you need to take for that. Yeah. It's about helping them understand how their body works and what they need to do so that they can take care of themselves.
Have you seen more people, like more interest in holistic medicine just within the past few years? Has this trend kind of grown, and why has that been the case?
So what I've found out is that younger kids, younger people, like in their 20s, are looking for the natural approach help. Until last year, it's usually middle-aged women.
Yeah, you would think older
seniors,
people.
right?
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know.
Are they seeing more
honestly.
things, like they're reading more about it, or maybe they're...
Well, what I found is that the people who are being diagnosed or getting sick with more chronic conditions, the age group is getting lower.
Oh, wow. Well,
The younger
that's kind
people
of scary.
are, right.
Yeah.
And they don't want to start taking the medications.
Interesting.
So they want to look for more, again, proactive approach, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Because the younger you start, the easier it will be to reverse that course of your health, right? So I think that's great for sure.
So tell me about some of the services. So we mentioned acupuncture. What are some of the other things that your clinic provides for your patients of all ages?
So one thing that I want to put out there, I'm not a pediatrician. I know actually we do get a lot of phone calls from the people asking for the pediatrician if I see the kids regularly. For the kids, I do see them, but it's on basis of needs, necessities. Well, if you have any specific condition that you're concerned of, then you can bring the kids. But to simply put it, we do have acupuncture, and we do have naturopathic side is that we have a membership and actually program. So we have a monthly membership for people who just needs to see the doctor, get tested. And they have all the other things, most of the other things under control. And we have also a program that is for people who needs a little bit more help with the coaching, learning how their body works, learning how to do things differently, and needing a lot more guidance. So because we don't want them to feel like they're left alone in between the doctor's visit and have to figure things out themselves.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, if anything, talking to people like you, I think it's part of that whole self-education about learning about your health and, the different approaches that might not, you might have to find something that works for you.
Right.
It doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah. And that's where the expert has to go in because the information that are out there are all general information.
Yeah.
If you want something specifically for you, you're going to have to find somebody who can learn about you and then also apply the general things and implement it properly for you.
Yeah. Well, this has been great, and it's great to learn so much more about what you do. If people want to get in touch with you and want to learn more about your clinic, where can they go?
Okay, so they can go to our website, which is lvimed.com.
And you're located on South Jones, right? So you're right
yes,
in
we're on the
town.
South Jones Boulevard, north of Desert Inn.
And are you offering, I know you've been offering webinars as part just during this COVID-19. Is that something that you've been offering your patients as well?
Yes, it's more for people who don't know what kind of approach there are out there, different options that are out there. So maybe one thing that I want to add before we close is that the insurance issue. Because a lot of people will wonder if it's covered by your insurance, right? Because that's one of the most important things.
Right.
The thing is that the insurance won't cover anything other than, let me put it this way. So the nature of the insurance, right? It doesn't matter whether it's health insurance or anything, car insurance, home insurance. It is there to help you financially when there's a bad things happening, the crisis happening. They are not necessarily there for you to be proactive for your health. I know there are some insurance policies or companies, they try to implement it, but it's very difficult and there's still very general information because when you think about it, insurance company, their core is insurance industry, it's a finance industry. They're not the healthcare providers. Just like car insurance, you don't expect your car insurance is going to cover the fixing your car for wear and tears, right? It's only when you're in an accident and when there's something critical happening. health insurance originally used to work that way. And that's their nature of it. And that's why they make it very difficult. Everything, if you read the fine line of your insurance, there's so many things that they'll say it's not medically necessary, even though you personally think it's very important for me, for my health. But it's not medically necessary because the most important role for them is to keep you alive. Right? They'll do anything and everything to keep you alive. But beyond that, is up to you. And a lot of people don't realize that. And they get upset at their insurance policies or a company. But it's not because they're bad guys. They're just that's just their role.
Right.
So I don't believe, I don't know if it's pertinent to say it here, but I don't believe anybody should die because they couldn't afford the critical care they need to stay alive. However, so everybody needs insurance because nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right.
However, when it comes to improving your quality of life, prolonging your health, right? Preventing the disease, it's not your insurance's job. So don't expect that your insurance is going to provide what you need for that purpose. And that being said, what we offer in our office is not covered by the insurance because I cannot work within the system to help the patients for what they really need.
Yeah, but that's good to know. If people want to reach out to you, that is that. But that's kind of the reasoning behind it. But yeah, I think it's really good information that you're sharing and the services that you're offering as well. I'm sure it has helped a lot of people. I'm sure a lot more in the future. So thank you so much, Dr. Lee Sedera, for coming in today.
You're welcome.
I've learned a lot about holistic medicine that I did not before. So I'm sure I'm going to look more into this as well. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching and joining us today for this episode of Family in Focus. We'll be back next week. And if you want more information on ACDC and their services, you can go to acdcnv.org. And we'll see you next week. Have a great day.